Hello and welcome to the 20 Days Face Your Fears online challenge. I am Bristena Mantu, transformation facilitator, energy therapist and writer. And my mission is to help people heal their past in order to be able to live the life of their bliss. I'm super excited to be your host on a journey of personal growth and empowerment through fearlessness and the power of community. Today I have a special guest, Lucy Rowett. Hi Lucy.
Hi, Bristena.
Hi. Lucy Rowett is a sex-positive, intuitive tarot reader, mentor, and writer whose passion is to empower you to live your brightest, fullest, and juiciest life. Her goal is to empower, educate, and transform, busting through myths around sexuality and incorporating it as a part of our healing path. She is also an avid tea drinker, lover of languages, and fan of dancing around the kitchen. Find her at juiceandjasmine.com and join her Facebook tribe, Juice and Jasmine Tribe. Welcome to the Fearlessness Challenge, Lucy. How are you today?
Oh, thank you so much, Bristena. I'm really good. I'm so excited to be here to talk to you and to have a really great discussion. So, yeah, this is really good.
Thank you for joining us. So, my first question for you today is, how did you overcome your greatest fear? And which was it in the first place?
Yeah, well, I found one thing that I struggled with in my whole life is being a very fearful person. I had anxiety problems for a very long time and genuinely being scared of lots and lots of things. So when I was trying to think of what my greatest fear was, well, there have been lots of them. And I think my three biggest fears. The first one was when I was very, very sick with chronic fatigue syndrome. There was a huge fear that I would never get better and huge fears around my health. And I overcame that by a combination of many different therapies and Reiki and slowly pushing myself, slowly pushing my own boundaries, having people encouraging me and telling me I could do it, and trusting in myself more and more that I could get my body stronger. And then, if I think of my second biggest fear, I think this kind of ties in with my path. I used to be an evangelical Christian, and I remember back at that time, I was terrified of losing my faith, which I think a lot of Christians do struggle with because there's in Christianity, you're so worried about losing your faith or trying to convert others. It's a big unconscious worry. And funnily enough, when I left the faith, which was about 6 years ago, my life has been so much better in terms of the people I've met, the things I've read and tried and immersed myself in. And so now I think back to that scared girl who was terrified of losing her faith in case that I became tempted by the world. And actually, it was a really, it was a very, not a silly fear because it's something that I think a lot of Christians struggle with. But
Yeah.
I look back at that girl and I think, wow, there was nothing to be afraid of at all. And then probably my last biggest fear that I've been working with a lot and something that maybe I still struggle with is a big fear of how I'm perceived, which I think, again, loads of people struggle
Yeah.
with. I was always terrified of not being liked and not being seen as cool. And especially with my work around healing my sexuality, there was a big fear around being seen as a slut, being seen as a nymphomaniac or a sexually voracious woman who was a bad woman. So maybe it was like a fear of being seen as a bad person. And actually, the way I've overcome that has been through, well, many different therapies and journeying and journaling and attending all sorts of workshops and reading books. And the more I journeyed into myself and the more I became more confident in myself and the more I let my real self come out. And also through starting my website and my blog and connecting with like-minded people and having loads of positive feedback as to, and when I got positive feedback about when I showed my soul, that was a really big catalyst into, oh no, I don't need to be afraid of what people think of me. I can show my real self, and actually people like that, and they like it more than maybe the self I was pretending to be. And I like myself more when I'm being myself. And now I don't bother so much about what people think of me. And there's certain behaviours and things I do, like sitting cross-legged or dancing or anything like that, awesome, because I really don't care if people think I'm crazy. It's I'm following my bliss, being myself, and it's something I'd love to give to God.
I'm sorry, Lucy, to interrupt. I think our connection is going a bit weak now. Kind of lost you.
To do. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
For a while I didn't hear you at all, and now the image just stopped. Maybe your internet
Okay.
connection is not that good?
Hello. Uh,
It's
I
getting
can't.
better now.
Okay, cool. Okay, the internet connection looks quite good for me, but in this house the connection's a bit funny.
Okay, now I think it's a bit better. So can you
Okay.
say again what the last idea you were talking about?
Oh, cool. So, my last biggest fear, which I think is something that most people in the world struggle with, is fear of how I was perceived and
Mm,
how I was seen by other people. So, fear of being seen as crazy, being seen as a bad person, being seen as needy, pretty much every single fear of how people perceive me, I had.
yeah.
And especially with my work around healing my sexuality and working with sexuality, there was a big fear about being seen as a slut or being seen as a sexually ferocious woman who was ruthless and being seen as someone I'm not. And so, how I overcame that was through, I think, many years of having different therapies, of doing lots of journaling, doing lots of personal work, attending many workshops, finding my life purpose and finding what I love to do, and attending festivals and retreats. And the more I really came into myself and felt at home in my body and got rid of shame about my sexuality and my real personality, the more I don't really care what people think of me. I don't care if they see me dancing like crazy or if they see me with no makeup on or if they see me showing a certain part of myself because it's like, well, I'm happy. I'm being myself. And I feel the more I show people my real self, often with my online things like my blogging and social media, and I get loads of positive feedback, the more it kind of does a really positive feedback loop of, yeah, actually people like me when I am myself, and it doesn't matter so much if people don't like me, because then they're obviously not my kind of people. So that's something I'd love to be able to empower other people to do is the more you are yourself and the more you get rid of everything that's not you and you embrace all your weirdness and your passions and your desires, the more magnetic you become, the more radiant you become, and the more juicy and vibrant life becomes.
Absolutely, and the more we become and the more we embody our true selves, of course, there are going to be people who like us and people who are going to dislike us because I think the reason for that is that we trigger their own insecurities by us being in our full power and exuding this beautiful magnetism. People who can't do that, they feel threatened. So there was a saying that it's better to be hated for who you are rather than loved for who you are not. I really love that.
It's it's so true because I think when you're trying to be somebody you're not, when you're constantly living that every day, eventually that's going to have a knock-on effect on your body and your health. It's going to affect your posture. It's going to affect the way your body functions. It will affect things like your body weight when you're trying to put on an act all the time. And eventually you get to a point where you forget who you really are because you're putting on an act which is expected of you by your family or your social group or your culture. You forget who you are, and then you wonder why you feel so empty and why life seems meaningless and why you can't find a purpose. And it's so sad. It's really, really
Absolutely,
sad.
yeah. And then when we lose our sense of our true self, our inner sense, then, as you said, we have this empty hole in us which needs to be filled with something. Therefore, we're looking for external validations, confirmation, and approvals. And when we fail to get those, then what do? We still have this empty void, and then we might end up in addictive patterns or
Mm.
really other kinds of toxic behavioral patterns that are sabotaging and are not doing us any good. So therefore, I totally agree with you. The more we connect with ourselves and the more we allow ourselves to be fully who we really are, then we're going to replenish ourselves from inside. We're not going to need people to like us or to approve of us, and we will also be able to not care what other people say about us because we care about what we think of ourselves, and that's the most important thing.
It's true. It's funny. My mum keeps saying, my mum is 65, and she says the best thing about getting older is that you don't care what people think. And I think, well, I'm 26, and it's great that I'm starting to learn that now rather than when I'm in my 40s, 50s, and 60s, because then life is a lot more fun now than having to wait till middle age. And I was also thinking that when you're being your real self, it can be really, really scary. The first time you start to really express yourself, it can be really, really scary, especially like expressing your real emotions, your real desires, and often actually owning those desires and owning the really quirky, eccentric parts of yourselves, especially if they don't fit with the rest of your social group or whatever culture you're in. That can be really challenging, really, really makes you feel very vulnerable.
But it comes with time, right? You take baby steps and you push yourself to do one thing that maybe is a little bit crazy. People might think you a little bit outside of the conventional boundaries of behavior. And you see that it's fine, and maybe some people are even going to like you. And then I noticed in my own experience that maybe you will distance yourself from the people of your past, and then other people will start coming into your field of experience, the people that you really vibe at that level.
It's so true. It's really funny how in my own personal path, the more I became true to myself, the more my friendship groups changed,
Absolutely.
and the more when I contact my old friends, how I feel I'm not. I still get on with a lot of them, but I'm not that same girl that I used to be with them. And it's amazing that the more you're being in your own truth, and the more you're being really true to yourself and what you love, you end up attracting some amazing people into your life. And life becomes so, it's like it's a positive feedback loop. The more you're yourself, the more pleasurable life becomes, and then the more wonderful people come into your life, and it's a constant, it becomes a positive snowball effect. Like, sometimes you will come across people you find difficult, but genuinely, the more you start to express yourself and follow a path that's true for you, the more miracles come into your life, the more wonderful coincidences come in, the more wonderful people you meet, and actually it makes you more open to meeting different people as well. There was something when I was doing a recovery program for my health condition, and they wanted to create a bliss list. So a bliss list is a list of everything that makes you feel good and blissful. And on that bliss list, it can be anything. It can be a bath with lovely oils. It can be watching a DVD, or it can be going to a dance class, or it can be painting, or anything. And you need to include at least 2 items on that bliss list into your life every day, no matter what you do, because blissfulness is what will keep you healthy and keep you happy. And it kind of makes a lot of sense, but a lot of people don't realize that. They don't realize the simple thing that when you do what you love, it makes you happy.
Absolutely, yeah. Because we kind of forget that we need to find happiness in little things as well. And creativity is a great source of life force and of beauty and joy. And yeah, the
Yeah,
more we allow our creative selves to express themselves, the happier we become.
it's true. And from a sexual point of view, orgasms and self pleasure are right up there in bliss list as well. In terms of the more you can cultivate your own self pleasure and orgasmic potential, the more wonderful life becomes and the more pleasurable life becomes as well.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so what is your number one strategy when you're helping yourself or others overcome fears?
I guess my number one strategy, well, I have a kind of two-pronged approach and they're a little
Okay.
bit opposing. My first one is to ask myself or the person, so what is the worst that can happen? And is it really that bad if that were to happen? So I had a friend of mine who was very scared of doing she's an actress and she was scared of doing a show where she would have to be doing some raunchy dancing because she said that I'm scared it would make me into somebody I'm not. And I said to her, well, what if it did? Is that such a bad thing if you became someone you're not? Maybe you could explore that a bit. Are you who you think you are? Maybe who you think you are isn't who you really are. um I don't know, I might have planted that seed in her head. I'll see whether she takes it or not. And it's something that I've spoken to a few other people, coincidentally, who also come from a Christian background. Whenever they have expressed a fear about a certain behavior, I say, well, what's the worst that can happen if you did? What if you did go down that path? Is that really a bad thing? And often, but when you start to examine your worst possible fear and you look at it from every angle and you think logically about it, you think, well, actually, it might not be that bad. Maybe I might give it a try. And there's also the reverse where you could say, what's the best that could happen if I do it? It's a CBT technique I learned years ago where you examine what's the worst that can happen and what's the best that can happen. Usually it's quite a nice outcome.
Mm.
And then also, I would also say that when you're working with overcoming really big fears, is go really gentle on yourself, especially for someone who has a predisposition to mental health or physical health. Go very, very gentle. It's what we call slowly bouncing the boundaries. So you're pushing yourself a little bit, but not going overboard, because sometimes overwhelm can make you go backwards. But going really gentle on yourself, as long as you're constantly moving forward, keeping that gentleness so you don't have to go all or nothing, like go completely full out. And then often when you try and go full out into something, then you can kind of get overwhelmed and then end up going backwards again. But if you just go gently and slowly keep pushing forward, usually that's the best way of making real progress in overcoming fears.
Yeah, it's very important to honor the process that we are on, especially if we have this great intention. Okay, I want to overcome this fear, and you realize that it's not going to be that easy. But you take little baby steps, as you say, and you honor yourself where you are on that process, and seeing
Mm.
that you're making progress. And even if you may not, even if you're going backwards, but at least see why was that, what held you back, what block came up this time, and work through these and really be patient with yourself, because it's a great thing that you're doing.
I think that's a really big thing, being patient with yourself, because sometimes some fears and patterns can be very hard to shift and they can be very, very ingrained. So really being patient with yourself when something is not shifting as quickly as you'd like it to. Um, so in my own personal journey, sometimes when I couldn't shift something, I'd practice radical self-acceptance. So the more I really embraced this, that this is where I was at the moment and it was okay, and I accepted where I was, actually then it started to shift.
Hmm.
So it's kind of I found it's kind of like a paradoxical approach. Sometimes you need to push yourself and sometimes you need to be gentle, and sometimes you need to embrace where you are at the moment, and then in that act of embracing, it actually shifts.
Yeah, yeah, and I like that idea, and I've experienced that myself. Um, what about this fear of being rejected by your peers, or fear of being perceived as a bad person? I feel like from you, this was the essence that I got from you, that you managed to overcome, and now you're living your full potential and you're helping other people um, let go of their inhibitions and reservations and fears around how they're being perceived.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have any other ideas on that you'd like to share? Anything from your personal experience or the experience of your clients?
Well, I would say that fear of rejection generally is something that we all have to some degree. And sometimes the biggest way to overcome rejection is to be rejected, or to have people say no to you, or to have people actually dislike you and give you maybe some negative feedback. Because it's like, oh, okay, I'm actually stronger than I thought I was. Yeah, this doesn't feel very nice, but actually, I'm still here and I'm still alive. I can still cope. One of the things we learned in Tantra, one of the basics you learn is the consent. So you learn how to say yes and no to whatever you want or don't want, and how to hear somebody say no to you. And sometimes hearing somebody say no can be very, very painful, and it can end up triggering a lot of very deep rejection wounds within you. But the more you can really examine those rejection wounds rather than acting on them, but examining them for where they are, like, why am I so afraid of being rejected? Where's it coming from? Is it because I base all my self-esteem on somebody else's opinion of me? And the more you can really go into that and start to take back your self-esteem for yourself. And I think in my journey, often the biggest healing came for me was when I learned from each rejection to become more self-reliant. And I increased the self-love, I increased the connection with myself, that no matter what would happen in life, no matter what wonderful things or awful things happened, I still had myself. And the more I really focused on that and worked with that, the more I could really examine those rejections and see where they were coming from. And I could really see that they were coming from a place of love. And the more resilient I feel to rejection, and the more resilient I feel to if people may not like me. I mean, I can't say it's completely finished. I still sometimes feel a bit sad if somebody doesn't like me or doesn't accept me, but it's a lot less stronger than it used to be. It doesn't bother me as much, and sometimes I feel so confident. I really don't care if people like me or not, because I can clearly see that that's their issue, not mine. As long as I'm being true to myself and also being respectful and doing it with as much love as possible, if somebody chooses to take that the wrong way or just decides it isn't for them, well, that's their shit, not mine. And I think
Absolutely.
that can be a really big thing. And was it you were saying last time we spoke that don't take anything
Yeah,
personally?
exactly. That was
So
what I had on my mind right now.
yeah, yeah. So every time somebody reacts negatively to you or even quite nastily to you, it's remembering that's their issue, not yours. You're only responsible for the way that you act to other people and the way that you react. You're not responsible for anybody else's choices or reactions or the way that they behave. So the more you can own your own behavior and your own emotions and let other people have theirs, your boundary becomes stronger in that you can see that if somebody else reacts negatively to me, that's theirs, not mine. Maybe this could be a very powerful lesson that would help many, many people, and not taking things so personally. And uh, what was I going to say? Not letting other people's behavior and negative reactions, especially, is quite strongly negative. Not letting it disturb their inner peace and helping them to see that, okay, this is their problem and not mine.
Yeah, exactly. And I think opportunities like this is just that when we end up being rejected, it's actually a blessing in disguise, and that it's an opportunity for us to be more self loving and more self reliant and to become more in tune with ourselves and to see that we're actually fine and that our sense of worth does not depend on how others perceive us, whether they accept us or not. Because at the end of the day, we're still whole, complete, and divine being if we choose to see ourselves this way.
It's so true. And the more that I think maybe this is the biggest healing that many people could go through, and realizing that they should not base their self-worth on somebody else's opinion of them. And I think maybe this is a mistake that a lot of people make in love and relationships,
Yeah.
in basing all of their self-esteem, their desirability, their lovability on how somebody else views them. So if somebody else rejects them, then it means, oh no, that means I am not lovable, that means there's something wrong with me, rather than realizing, okay, that's their choice, but it doesn't reflect on me.
Absolutely. And the more you become self loving and the more your self worth increases inside of yourself, then you exude this vibration of confidence and worth and you become magnetic. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it on an energetic level, it actually feels a lot stronger. You feel, certainly I do, I feel much more connected to my core, to my womb, to my heart, when I know that my self-worth and my love comes from me and it does not depend on anybody else. Um, I think it used to be a huge thing for me. I was terrified of how people thought of me or how they felt about me. And slowly, bit by bit, I've been taking back my own power and my own self-esteem. So now it bothers me less and less and less the way people think or feel about me, because that's their problem and not mine. And maybe it's respecting that every single person in the world has such a different viewpoint and has different filters, have different life experiences that color the way they are and the way they believe today. And so we can't possibly agree on everything,
You can't
and we
please
can't
everybody, can
can't
you?
possibly get on with everyone. It's like, you can't please everyone, and that's okay. You're not going to please everyone. Not everyone is going to like you, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're any less divine, any less lovable, any less beautiful. It just means, I think there's a woman called Catherine Alice who says there's no such thing as rejection, just wrong fit.
Yeah.
So it just, if people aren't rejecting you as such, it's just you don't fit in with them, and that's okay. It's a
That's okay.
blessing, so you can find people who do fit in with you.
Yeah, I think this is very inspirational what you're sharing with us because maybe many people are still struggling with this and to see somebody who have has managed to let go of this fear of being rejected and realizing that it's okay to be who you really are and to be as wild or crazy as you want to be and then you surround yourself with people who give yourself the permission to do this, and you have amazing times together. So it's possible, and it's something that we both recommend you to do.
Yeah, it's true. And coincidentally, it is wonderful to have a tribe around you who validate your experiences and validate your expression, because then it encourages you even more that, yeah, it's safe to be like this. It's safe to be myself. It's actually nice. It's pleasurable. It's enjoyable to be myself. People respond positively to me being myself. It has to come from you first, because sometimes you have to break away from one circle of people if they're not supportive of the way you really are. But then the more you own yourself and own your own personality, the more, as you said, the more people you attract who really validate that. And then it's a positive feedback loop that
Yeah,
constantly grows and grows.
yeah, it grows and grows, and then more magic unfolds.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I love this.
Yeah, you were saying also that when we get rejected, it's actually a blessing because we have to learn to love ourselves. I remember a teacher that I knew last year, and she said that everything that happens in life is perfect, no matter how horrible or unpleasant it is, because it means that we have to really learn to find the love within ourselves. So all of life's challenges and hardships, it's actually an invitation to go within and find the love within ourselves first. And so if we can take every rejection or every awful thing that happens as an invitation to go deeper, then you become much more self-resilient and much more heart-centered, much more compassionate, and much more understanding as well.
Yeah. The more you do that to yourself, the more you become compassionate and forgiving and accepting of yourself, then you can do that to other people as well. So we are growing together, we are uplifting each other. The more I accept myself, the more I will accept you, and therefore, the better the whole world is going to turn out.
Yeah, maybe it's a teenage thing or something that we go through as adults. That I think maybe when adults are older, maybe in their 30s or 40s or 50s, they come to accept themselves more. But I think it's a shame that you have to wait for that long to learn to accept yourself. Why can't we enable each other and teach each other to accept ourselves as we are now, no matter how old you are? Um, so that life becomes nicer much earlier, and we don't have to wait for years and years and years before we accept ourselves.
Well, I think we're doing it now, and the more we share this information and this encouragement to people, the more we allow each other to be who we really are and to love ourselves and to own who we really are. Because I think, in my view, this is what self-love means: owning who you are and being okay, 100% with who you are, and being your own source of love, your own source of worth, and yeah, it's beautiful to be like that. Okay.
Yeah, it's so true. It's something that oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry, I thought the line broke up there. But yeah, I think it's something that would be deeply healing to many people, and then we wouldn't be looking for completion or validation in a romantic relationship, and maybe our general relationships would be a lot healthier. What do you
Absolutely.
think?
Yeah, I agree with that. Meeting someone at that level of wholeness. I'm a whole being, you are a whole being, and then when we meet, we create a third entity. We're not like merging into each other and completing each other because we're whole already, but we're creating something in the middle, a third energy, and playing with
Mm-hmm.
that is absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, Lucy, thank you very much for joining us. Is there any way
Thank
that
you.
our viewers can reach you or contact you?
Yes, so you can find me at my website, juiceandjasmine.com, where I blog and write about everything to do with sex, spirit, and personal development. I also have my Facebook group, which is Juice and Jasmine Tribe. I would love to see you there, where we talk about everything sex, spirit, and transformation. And what else I was going to say? Yeah, so I'm on also the Facebook page, Juice and Jasmine, and I'd really love to hear from you.
Thank you very much. It was a wonderful and rich exchange. And thank you everybody for watching this interview. I hope you were inspired and you can start applying some of the ideas we discussed in your daily lives. If you like this interview, please share it on your social media. Let your friends know that you're participating in this amazing online challenge for fearless warriors. Join my YouTube channel, Journey to Bliss, and sign up to the link below to get your free Bliss Blueprint with the 3 stages of radical transformation from within. I hope you enjoyed this and see you next time. Bye bye!